Welcome, everyone. Welcome to May We Know Them. This is a virtual video podcast space, a place for strong women to both see and be seen, a place for them to share their stories. I'm the host, Megan Johnson. I'm a coach, I'm a writer, I'm a speaker. My favorite form of magic is bringing people together to have conversations. People don't know each other and suddenly they connect and it's like, how have I not known you my entire life? So we're going to do a little bit of that today. We do have some folks joining us live. Thank you for being here. So whether you're joining us live or if you're catching the replay of this, I encourage you to have a pen and paper nearby so that as we're having a conversation here tonight, if there's anything that really resonates for you, that just kind of hits you between the eyes or lands in your heart, like, oh, I needed to hear that. Even if it makes you a little uncomfortable, or maybe especially if it makes you a little uncomfortable, write it down. Share with us in the comments what's coming up for you, what really stuck with you, so that we can keep this conversation going. Okay. With that, my guest this evening is such a lighthouse. Like I'm just super excited to have this conversation with Carly tonight. Carly is, let me turn off my email because I just heard that buzz come through. This is how it goes, you guys.
Life doesn't stop for podcasts.
life doesn't stop, period. Was so perfect for tonight. But yeah, Carly is such a, just a true gem. She is someone who has a big heart and it's just full of positive energy and warmth. And I see her out in the world as a teacher having such an impact on all the people that she interacts with just by her being herself. It's the coolest thing. Like I don't see her trying and putting on like this brave face, but she's just like, this is me, you guys. And it just like, it gets like this fairy dust all over people. So anytime I see her, just what she's up to in life, it just warms my heart. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with you tonight, Carly. Thank you for being here. And thank you for being willing to just open up and share a little bit of your story with us tonight. Super excited. So like to jump in. So tonight we're going to be having a conversation about owning your own story and what that looks like and what that means and how that probably gets messy. I'm sure we'll dive into that a little bit, maybe a lot of it. And really, Carly, what I'd love to ask you first, just to dive in here, is kind of what was going on in your life before you had this aha that you actually get to be the one who says how things go for you. Yeah, I'd love just to hear a little bit about what was so before having this realization.
Absolutely. So again, first and foremost, thank you for having me and thanks for opening this conversation. Anytime that we've spoken, both in person and on the phone and just messaging back and forth, there is a kinship in that light. So thank you for shining that back, especially when it feels a little dimmer with 2020 at the end of our date books. So jumping right in, speaking of before things get better, I have been a teacher now for 10 years. I started my career in 2011. Teaching third grade, and then I bounced up to fifth grade, and now I'm in first grade for the first time. So I am ecstatic about that. It's a lot of bouncing and a lot of fun. They keep me tired, but a good ton of tired. They're dangerous. They are fireflies. They just light everything up and make it sparkle. But prior to the sparkling and the joy and the energy at 6 o'clock at night after teaching all day, there was a time period where you finish college, and the idea is if you want a job, you had better have all of your ducks in a row. You had better be the cookie cutter candidate. Everything about what you do needs to scream, I have the right answer. I know exactly what to do in every single circumstance, every single situation. And entering into the workforce, I was actually hired the fall after I graduated. So I was really excited. I had those months to do my summer jobs and things, and then made my way into teaching. And the first teaching job that I had, when I was interviewing, I was very excited and really ready to tackle all of that. And, this situation that I was teaching in was very unique. I had kids from many different districts coming, many different cultures. So that was so beautiful to be welcomed into different lifestyles. It was just truly a joy. But I started to realize that largely I was living my life solely to teach. I thought that if I was teaching and if I was achieving a certain score, if my kids were all showing up, which there are certain marks to make yourself feel good as a teacher and know you have an impact, but to solely place your worth on extrinsic things and largely things that are outside of your control was sort of what I slipped into. And it wasn't until I had taught for the first 2 years in third grade and I had met up with other individuals, other groups like the Life is Good Playmakers and others that really took their joy and put it forefront and used that to power and empower themselves in everything that they did. When I realized that I am this joyful, exuberant firecracker of a person that I've always been, but that somehow that road shotgun to the responsibility of being perfect, of being the person who gets every answer right, then I had to take a step back. And it was at that point that I looked for a new job and I bounced up and down in a suit in the interview and was unapologetically myself. And I hoped and I prayed that if I was 100% myself, then the person that they would hire was the person that I got to be every day when I went to work. And opening yourself up to that, opening myself up to that, I did. And it has been 8 glorious years of being very tall and very loud and being this presence every single day of bouncing through the hallways, just about as high as a first grader does. And it's been a gift, but it was absolutely a gift that was, wrapped in tinfoil with thumbtacks on the outside. It wasn't always easy. And to remind yourself again that you can learn that type of lesson at any point, I think that was a big turning point for me, because we are also of the mindset of the generation that, well, I've made this choice, I have to lie with it. This is where I am. This is where I'm stuck. And to take that big leap changed everything.
Yeah, that's so funny you say that, because that's something for me. So to give some backstory for our people on the call here and people catching the replay here is my background is in teaching. Like Carly and I went to the same college, and I'm not a teacher anymore. So that was something, what you just said there, Carly, about, you make that decision and then you live with it. I remember my mom saying that to me, like, well, this is the bed you've made, you have to lie in it. And I'm like, yeah, but forever? Like forever, really? Like, do I? And I decided, no, it doesn't have to be forever, rather than looking for someone else to tell me that right answer that you talked about. I love what you're sharing here, Carly, because I think this is something that's so just seeping through the teaching profession is your life becomes who you are as a teacher. It becomes, what you sleep, eat, breathe, because we know the to-do list never ends, and like ever. And, we have that commonality here with teaching, but that's the same, any service-based, profession that's just giving of yourselves. Parenting, like the job is just never over. And what I hear and what you're sharing is just realizing, like, wait a minute. Like, what if I just am me first? So just, this conversation like resonates in my heart so much. So with that, Carly, like I hear the, like there was a decision point. There was then a interviewing for a new job and whatnot. And I'm curious, like, what was the thing that just had you say, whoa, this is not the way? Like, what was the line in the sand, the moment that's just like, oh, gotta do something different here?
So I'm certain that all of us kind of see, the trail, like the breadcrumbs that sort of lead you to that kind of decision. And I will say that it was instances like, you go home and you never stop working. And again, as teachers, it is nothing disparaging of the career. It doesn't end at 4:00. You don't go home and simply stop. So to understand, again, like all service professions, any helpers in the world, shout out to
big hearts.
Yeah. Enneagram 2s. I hear you. but knowing that we want to help and we want to be of service, you know, just as human beings, you start to realize just how much that overtakes it. So I think a big part for me was realizing not only that I wasn't joyful, but that didn't even really feel like I was holding space for myself anymore. And I know that you had mentioned at the beginning of this conversation, you know, how lucky we are to have people, you know, hidden watching this and a part of the conversation in spirit, if not being seen right away. And it's important that we are so willing to, you know, use our emotional bandwidth for others and hold space for them. But I never allowed myself to really fill myself up with what made me joyful, but also to feel what I had lost in replacing that with things that didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, it was really important to me to recognize that I was exchanging days of my life for hours that just took every ounce of light I had. You know, crying in your car, crying in the supply room, you know, just feelings are okay. They're meant to be felt. They're beautiful and they can be big and ugly and shiny, and that's marvelous. But to realize that you are giving up who you're meant to be so that you can gain the approval of someone who would hire another person in a second. It's moments like that that you realize that your value carries far beyond the end of a workday, far beyond relationships. It has to start with you first.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. All the yes. And, you know, just tying it back into, you know, the theme for tonight of owning your own story. I see this a lot in, you know, the phrase I heard a lot for myself when I was going through teaching and just questioning, like, God, is this how it's supposed to be? Like, shouldn't I maybe enjoying life a little bit more? The thing that kept coming up was, well, it is what it is. Like, this is what you sign up for. This is how the profession goes. And there was something, what I'm hearing kind of as the aha for you that I can resonate with is, like, there was something about being of service to others with this like convoluted formula that meant by sacrificing self.
Yes.
And feeling like that has to be the way. Mm-hmm. To the point where, I mean, we can all predict, you know, from a place of just being logical human beings, that that's not sustainable. Like, it's not sustainable. And yet the idea of putting yourself first, gosh, it just feels so icky at first as you're starting to do it, because it's just not common. Mm-hmm. And yeah, so Carly, so you had this aha, you're leaning into, you know, owning your story, doing life your way. And I'm going to assume, and I would love if this is not the case, and you can just tell us what magic happened that had to be, but I'm going to assume that just choosing that didn't mean everything was suddenly butterflies and rainbows.
No.
So tell us a little bit about that experience, that process of having that awakening and then looking to do life that way. What was that like? What is that still like? Probably.
No, it is very much, it's all in the during. Emily McDowell long ago. It's not before, it's not after, it's in the during. So looking back on that, so getting my new job meant that I was moving away from home, about an hour away from home. So not super far, but everything that I had known for 23, 24 years of life was going to change. And I was going to be doing this on my own, knowing that I could. But once you start to put certain things forward, because you don't let go of perfectionism overnight, you absolutely get a new job. So you absolutely put that at the forefront of everything you do. And I was very blessed and fortunate to have amazing friends and an amazing family that definitely stayed super connected and kept me grounded. But even within that, it became, you're sacrificing one thing for another. So even though I knew that this was making me happier, I was also allowing myself to get tricked into the idea that, yes, there is such a thing as a perfect job and it will keep you happy. And if you do everything perfectly, then yes, you will feel fulfilled and enough. Mm-hmm. And with that comes the sacrifice of maybe you're not eating as healthy as you should, or when was the last time you got a walk instead of sitting and doing more work, because there's always more work to be done. So again, you exchange the idea of doing one thing to achieve something else. There's always going to be another checkbox. There's always going to be something else that you could do, when all along, the only person that stayed the same was me. The only thing that really needed the attention and the love that was going to get me through all of this was the very body that I was lugging around, getting annoyed with because it was tired, because it wasn't sleeping enough, or, I was getting stressed and anxious because everything felt like the end of the world. It had to be perfect. It had to be good because I made this leap. I'm doing this on my own. What am I risking if I left one job to try another? You don't get two teaching jobs. You're not that lucky. You're really biting the hand that feeds you there.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold, you come to realize that, and even, in my new position, there were some people who, because I kept to myself and I was so nervous at making a mistake, there was a couple people that had said, she seems a little antisocial. She doesn't seem like a team player. And I thought to myself, those are not words that describe me. And for the longest time, it bothered me. And only recently have I been able to look at that and go, how closed off and concerned with how perfect things had to be did you not let yourself be friendly in an imperfect way? Mm-hmm. How did you not put your head up and put your shoulders back and own the fact that you deserve to be here enough that people got to see your eyes light up with everything that you're doing for these kids?
Yeah.
So it's still a hard journey, but you're right. It took realizing that you're never going to let go of the idea that there's more that could be done, until you realize that doing things for your own sake and your own wellness, and recognizing that you can work on you as much as you want and you will still be a work in progress. That was a big moment for me. But again, more on the personal growth after I moved from the professional side of things.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's just such an eye opener to how I think just us as humans, we're just always in process. And mm-hmm. yet there's this desire to, well, once I get here, it'll be better, it'll be enough, or I'll feel more accomplished, or, and how cool it is and how difficult it is to put down this idea of like, we need to prove ourselves rather than just choose to own it.
Oh yeah.
And how, and the walls that build up for you, the distance. Yeah. What you described, like, those are not words I would ever use to describe you. And it's funny the ways, that desire for perfection just sneaks in there and creates this little monster of a situation that, just doesn't need to exist. Yeah.
Imposter syndrome does a really nice job giving perfectionism a helping hand, for certain.
Yeah. Two I said people, I don't know, entities that, always show up to the party and yet never are really welcome. They just find a way.
You. Exactly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Carly, what's coming up for me as you're saying all this is thinking about, your role as a teacher and the model you set, the example that you are for the kids that you're with day in and day out. What do you see as the impact of actually choosing outside of perfectionism? What do you see as the impact on their lives?
Being an imperfect human is kind of how I have started every single day of teaching since I started this new position. Because again, at the old one, there was imperfection, but you could find a way around it. And here, reminding kids that I don't have all of the answers, being the first one to say, you know what, I'm not certain of that. Let's look that up. Or I'm so glad that you asked that question. I never thought of it that way. Even now working with first grade, where you try to cram these enormous life lessons into tiny little nuggets. Miss McPartland, you said we keep trying. That's right. When things don't go our way, we keep trying. When we don't understand something, we keep trying.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of practice with this first grade, because how long have I been alive? 31 years. They really like to remind you, you never stop learning. You never stop growing. So to show them, even just, whether it's emotional transformation or professional transformation or physical transformation, they recognize that you aren't stuck where you are. One of the phrases from college that I appreciate most, Dr. David Martinuk, our marching band director, would use the phrase practice makes permanent. And I have talked to my kids, 5th grade, 1st grade, all across the board, to say, you can do this a million times. And if you do it wrong, you will be perfectly wrong in doing it. So again, I don't want to sneak into the idea that me doing this over and over again means that I'll get it right. It means that I'm going to establish myself and a routine and a reputation based upon what I'm doing repeatedly. Mm-hmm. So with these kids, when they see me running with them at the wellness walk, this is, again, putting my wellness first, running laps with them, something I would have never done when I first got hired. I wasn't in that kind of shape. I didn't believe in myself that way. Seeing that, they recognize, oh, fitness isn't the way that you look. Fitness isn't, a number on a scale or, your clothing size. It's also not that your teacher is afraid to look like an idiot. She's going to be ridiculous and you're stuck with her for the rest of the year. Where, in talking to 1st grade and even in 5th, I mean, it really does run the gambit. Mm-hmm. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world when you make a mistake. Yeah. And the first person that confronts that with you should do so with kindness. Mm-hmm. Because I learned the same lesson you did in a very similar way, no doubt. And the last thing that you need from me is another voice aside from the one in your head that says, you messed up again. Or wrong. It's always again. We never learn. Again, practice makes permanent. We will get this wrong. And it'll still be fun. But yeah, to just remind them that there is grace and that there is room for error. And that even as a grown-up, I don't know the answers, but what I can tell you is if you're being safe and you're having fun and you're letting yourself try to just be in this moment and be present, not to worry about your math tests, not to worry about lunch or recess or what your friends said over the weekend. If you're in this moment with me right now, I'm going to do everything in my power to make certain that you feel valuable, that you feel worthy, and that you are loved. So take that message to the kids and realize that first you have to say those things to yourself and mean it. You can't give what you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. It has to start from here. Otherwise, it's especially when you're teaching children, because they know when adults are just blowing smoke, and they'll be the ones that tell you. So
not quickly, mind you, very blunt.
Yeah. So talk about the perfect accountability partners for living a life on purpose.
6-year-old.
whether you want it or not. Yeah, they're great. They're great at that. Oh my gosh, super, super cool. And thanks for, I didn't prep you like that. I was going to ask you that question. It's just like what felt true in my heart. And so thanks for even just going there and answering that with such
keep those questions coming. I like.
I know. I know. Yeah. And I'm just so grateful for you showing up that way, for yourself and by consequence for others, because of the ripple effect, like I can already feel present to as a result, when those 6-7-year-olds are, 20 years from now, 30 years from now, out there making big things happen in the world because they learned it's okay to fall on your face and get back up. Like, what happens to us as we grow older, where suddenly we're terrified to do that? And yet, like, I can think of all the times I've fallen and gotten scabby knees as a kid. I mean, it's how we learn. Oh my gosh, so many places we can go in this conversation.
I'm here for all of them.
Yeah, I know. Carly, just the nature of this space, this conversation we're having, the idea of May We Know Them, really celebrating strong women who are doing the things, like who are making waves and inviting other people along. I'd love to hear if there's just someone in your life, in your space, who has been kind of a beacon for that, who might be this secret that we all need to know about. So who's someone in your space or that we should pay attention to?
Oh goodness. I was going to say it's hard to narrow it down. I could absolutely point you to my mother and my sister, because my mother, I do feel like I get a lot of my personality from, very fortunate for that. My sister and I are opposites in the best way possible. The best friend necklaces with the cookie cutter cut out, it's I zig, she zags, I zig, she zags, and I think it's important to have somebody who challenges you in all the right ways, but that unconditional love. More work that I have done, like professionally, and these names will not in any way be a surprise to many people. Doing work within the Enneagram and also looking at people like, Brene Brown and Emily McDowell, and these people who really do a great job of saying life is messy, embrace that mess. I believe it's let your mess be your message there, Miss.
Yeah. Something like that.
Oh, okay, great. And again, I mean, to find people, and I think that's the biggest part too, is perhaps the biggest message, even instead of going like, hey, here's an Instagram handle. I have surrounded myself with people who I've begun to surround myself with more people that are just who they are. And I've started to weed out all of the accounts and people in my life that make me feel less than. And this bigger idea, which again, should come as a surprise to nobody. Everybody's telling you like, don't follow the people that don't make you feel great. And yet you still want to look like that person. Yeah. And yet you still want that house, that car, that marriage. So I do think that a big part of this journey is figuring out what it is that you want to cultivate and finding people who bring that out in you. I know that you and I have become more and more chatty, knowing of each other at IUP and being, pseudo buddies from further. Yeah. And then our natural propensity for finding the light and being optimistic and wanting to guide people through different avenues, but guiding and helping nonetheless. Again, welcome to the Enneagram 2 show. Mm-hmm. It's this idea that we naturally magnetized.
Yeah.
We just found each other. So, you see these Pinterest board quotes popping up, find the people that make you feel like sunshine.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly the one that was going through my head as you were talking. So that's so fun. That's so perfect.
And it comes back to, there are also those ones that, avoid people who make you feel hard to love. And I do think there is a real beauty in being around people that challenge you. It's very easy to assume any one person, group, etc., is all the same. Again, you might have a bad teacher and assume that all teachers are the worst. We're going to push you. I can see why you might not enjoy that. But also, I mean, surrounding myself with people that I aspire to be, surrounding myself with people that remind me that I am enough as I am, but more so reminding me that there are people out there who support me and love me, but are not going to let me stop challenging myself. Mm-hmm. And that comes down to the challenge of, oh, well, I need to get this workout in. You also need sleep. I'm going to challenge you to take care of yourself. Or I know that I feel this way on this particular topic. And I respect that enough to say, here's my viewpoint. What's your thought on that? Mm-hmm. Because if you're vulnerable enough to even come to another person and say, we disagree, we're not on the same page. If they're meeting you where you are, if they too are holding that space, it's the perfect place for you to go, right? You're right. This is the chapter I'm writing right now. This is the battle I'm picking, big or small. And it doesn't have to be the end of anything. If anything, it's the beginning of a really fun, messy conversation.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. And just tying it back into perfectionism comes in there, sometimes it even sneaks in there like, oh, I can't say this thing to this person who's a loved one, who's a friend, who's a family member, because then it just goes against the rules and that's not the right way. And it's like, but actually being willing to be 100% yourself and stand for that with these, with these loved ones, with these people closest to you, and be willing to have those messy conversations. Mm-hmm. That actually is what fortifies the relationship, because you're actually, you're breaking things apart and putting it back together on purpose. It's intimate.
Yeah.
Being messy is, I don't know if Selena is still on the call here. She'd join us, but something her and I talk about in our circles at times is that intimacy. Let me see if I can write it down, but it's actually, if you break it apart, it's like stepping into messy.
Oh, I love that. Little phonetics. Oh,
yeah. It's all tied in there, and perfectionism doesn't live there. It just doesn't.
It doesn't belong in our neighborhood. Like, it can live somewhere else. It's allowed to exist, but this is my house.
Yes.
You don't.
My house, my rules. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my goodness, Carly. Anything else? Just any other just nugget of wisdom you wanted to share with anyone who may be at the precipice of putting down the external checklist, this is your bed, you lie in it, and really feeling called towards some sort of inner editing of the current life's circumstances?
Of course. I remember in, preparing for this a few weeks back when you and I were talking, and I had said, at the beginning of my teaching career and this, assumption that it has to be perfection and things like this. I do remember saying something along the lines of, that first job, those first challenges, the things that really made me confront who and what I wanted to be and how I wanted to exist in a classroom space, knowing that I had that light, and for some reason it was being pulled somewhere else instead of being given to the kiddos. And I remember I had said, for the longest time, for months after, leaving that on my terms, leaving that, I had said, that almost broke me. That broke me. That broke me. They broke me. And come to find out that the correct phrasing when we were talking had come out that it didn't break me. It cracked me wide open.
Yeah.
And that allowed everything else to expand. And I want to be cautious and I want to tread lightly, because I know, especially if you are at the precipice of a big leap, if you are moving yourself towards something that feels incredibly uncertain and really dangerous, not actually dangerous. Please don't do dangerous things without taking safe steps first. The teacher is not gone to sleep yet. I'm very anxious. Like, please don't do scary things or dangerous things. Scary things, always. But looking at that, first recognizing that you will be okay. And that more importantly than that, give yourself the grace when you make a choice that it can be a bad choice. That doesn't make you, one, a bad person, but also a bad choice does not mean that you are allowed to and or required to punish yourself for taking that leap. Because one of the easiest things in the world to do is to take a step back and go, wow, I really miscalculated. That means that I'm not as smart that I thought. I'm not enough of an entrepreneur. I didn't seek out every rule in the book. You can throw yourself. I mean, just goodness, every name you can call yourself. And it's so unkind, because the you that showed up to even imagine something different than where you are right now is worthy of whatever it is you're working for.
Ooh, yeah. Yeah. Wow. Oh, the things we tell ourselves, the things we make up.
We started the conversation with the story I'm telling myself. And that phrase by itself has been the biggest. Anxiety wise, teaching wise, the story I'm telling myself is finish it with the ludicrous thought you have. Then let your heart go, oh, that's silly. Yeah, no, that's not right.
And sometimes you actually have to let it out so that your ears can hear the nonsense and be like, wait, what? No. And actually choose outside of it.
You have to finish that sentence. You have to let yourself hear the entirety.
Otherwise you hold it. And then you held the other one. And then that's when things feel heavy. And that's when we don't take those leaps, because we have a tire on our back.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness. Oh, so many good things. Well, I'd love to, we're fortunate enough to have some people joining us live here on for this conversation. So I'd love to ask them to feel free to come off mute, come back onto video and jump in. I'd love to hear if you can pick one thing. But maybe the thing that's really jumping out to you the most that's resonated with you here.
I just wanted to, Megan, take a minute to thank you for featuring my sister on this, just because she's although we fought for the first 20 years of our sisterhood. She's one of my heroes, someone that I look up to, and it's just nice to know that somebody else feels that way too. That's the reason why I'm not on video right now. And the fact that I haven't showered today, which I didn't need to put out on your podcast, but still. But I just wanted to thank you for featuring her, because I'm lucky that I do know her, and others know her as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And she's 100% right that we are complete opposites. And I'm really glad I was muted, because I was finishing up my work day and I was listening to this, and she said the Isaac and she zags, and I laughed out loud and woke my cat, because it's just so true. But anyway, thank you again, and Carly, I'll talk to you later.
Sounds good.
Oh, so good. Thanks, Sarah. Got me.
I was gonna say she's also a redhead, so just so you know.
There we go. Bringing that fire. I got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, Sarah, thanks for saying that. Thanks for being willing to get emotional and say it, and just, hearing people just to I guess be a little bit vulnerable here. My family was not one to talk about how we feel about each other. We just did things. That was our love language. So just to witness that is just super cool. So thanks for, I feel like I got to eavesdrop on something else.
I was going to say too, I'm not certain if she's had the chance to listen to it yet. There's an episode of Brene Brown's new podcast where she talks to Emily, and I can't think of the other sister.
Amelia.
Thank you.
Burnout. Yes.
Oh, look, burnout. Let's talk about her. And at one point her sister pops on, and it's, what's the proudest you've ever been? And she's talking about her recital, and I'm listening to it in the car. And when she asks her sister's very first words are in the middle of heaving sobs. And I am just completely taken aback. And Sarah also knows that we do feelings differently. We both have big feelings. So what's going to happen is we're going to end the podcast at some point. And then, about 25 minutes after, I will find myself crying in my living room, and it will be because of how touched I am, because she's right. 31 and 30 now. Happy belated birthday. It's that in itself too is also both of us recognizing she doesn't have to be me. I don't have to be her. And yeah, she is fierce. I'm very fortunate to know her and know that she is unapologetically herself in the best way possible. It's so good. It's so good. What's not great? Me holding my phone.
I mean, it's borderline cool that I'm unapologetically myself, because sometimes I'll talk out loud or say something to Carly and I'm like, oh my God, I just said that out loud. So, but
it's,
those are the moments that create such beautifully messy, even opportunities. To be able to have a container where a relationship that you can say those kind of things and then be like, oh, wait a minute, come back. And it doesn't have to be like the end of the world, that's real trust. And there's a buoyancy in relationships like that. And you don't get that by tiptoeing in conversations and trying to have everything be perfect.
Yes.
You don't get that. So
yeah.
Oh, thanks for being a model of that, you guys. That was an extra little gift here tonight.
Your nugget from the McPartland.
Yes, I feel honored. I do. Well, with that, Carly, thank you again. You're just such an open heart, and the way that you just share your joy and your vibrancy. It's you're like a bubbly glass of champagne that is just such a refreshing treat. And just personally, I want to thank you for who you are in the world of teaching. I'm gonna get emotional. Crap.
Oh, do it. Please do it. I believe
in you. Here we go. No, just there are times where I feel I still struggle with guilt for leaving the profession, and I know that that was the thing I needed to do, because I was so far gone from who I was, from that joyful place, that I was no longer the best person to serve my kids. And so to see somebody doing that work, so just through and through, being that model, like for yourself and the gift that is for everyone in your path. Yeah, I feel okay. Like, I'm like, oh, but there's people like, there's people like Carly in the world who are, you know, who've got it and who are, you know, are doing the things. Oh my gosh, they're like snot coming out of my nose.
Listen, and again, trust me, this is all going to hit. A very dear friend of mine, when something very touching occurred at her wedding, and she was just like, this is kind of where I'm at right now. And I also think this is a big part of who I am as a person. And, you know, full disclosure to everybody out there, I can be sunshine and moonbeams, and I can also be a hurricane with a path. So
yeah,
acknowledging that we are all the yin and yang and we've got the light and the dark. I think there's something really important to be said for allowing ourselves, just speaking to my boyfriend about this today, this idea of hearing the phrase, you know, giving yourself permission. And some of us really need that wording. I mean, you can give yourself space, you can, you know, provide yourself the opportunity, but for some of us, myself in particular, permission was big. Mm-hmm. And you, beautiful Megan, you have afforded yourself the opportunity. You've given yourself permission to bloom into the person you were meant to become. And I wouldn't trade place with you for the world, because you're so damn good at what you do. And again, this has been a really challenging year teaching wise. And the 10 years have flown by, and some days they drag by. But I'm also starting to notice too, that the imperfect moments are the really, really good ones, and the perfect ones don't bring you nearly as much joy as you thought they would. So taking stock of kind of where we've been, it's really remarkable just how, because it doesn't have to be really messy. I mean, the messy stuff can be really hard. You can't always polish that. But I just thank you for really grabbing hold of that, because just like I can look at my kiddos, my first group who graduates next year.
Crazy.
Gross. I mean, I love them, and it's not gross, but it's gross.
Yes.
Knowing that my first group graduates next year. I also feel a kinship to you coaching in that way, because you have a ripple, you have a community, you have students of life that are coming to you saying, look, I want to grab this by the horns. I want to take the reins. I need to own exactly where I'm at. And you give them the perfect avenue for that. You provide every conduit imaginable to take that energy and just light the world on fire. So without you, I don't get the chance to do this.
Yeah. Everybody wins. Everybody wins.
Good night, everyone. No.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Carly, thank you so much for being here. I just like, even just selfishly for myself, I just want to like keep this in my back pocket and watch it on like a random Tuesday at 3 p.m.
I probably will. So don't stress.
Good. And everyone, you know, who's here with us tonight, who's catching the replay, again, please keep this conversation going. This, like, living life from the inside, from your true joy, is, I don't see this as a conversation that's going to go out of style anytime soon. So let's, you know, keep it going in the comments. I'll share Carly's, you know, just where you can find her, just to follow what she's up to and the message she's sending in the world, because she's definitely somebody that you, obviously, if you've made it this far in watching this conversation, you want to have in your space. So with that, just thank you so much. And it's just been a true gift.
Thank you, Megan.
Awesome.